Okay, it's been about 2 months since I did one of these, so it's time for a vinyl update. And I have just a handful of records to talk about here. Haven't been going to my local used bookstore, record store at all really lately. So I just have all these I just special ordered from online retailers, and I just have five records to talk about. Alright, first of all, it's the Deafheaven, I believe this is a 2011 album, Roads to Judah. And this was the band's first full-length LP from Deathwish Records, and this is where I ordered this from. I ordered this from Deathwish Records, which really excellent record label if you're into black metal, death metal, or just indie metal in general. And what really piqued my interest about this is, look at that. I have no idea how this lighting effect is going to look on camera, but in person it looks pretty frickin' sweet. This is a clear pressed vinyl record. That was clunky. Yeah. So not really a colored album, but very, very fascinating and interesting nonetheless. And Deafheaven, if you don't know, is an indie, I suppose they're mostly classified as black metal, even though they have more of a, they more take the sounds of black metal and fuse it with post-rock, post-metal, and I have a CD copy of their second album, Sunbather, which came out last year. I had seen it on a list of best albums of 2013 list, decided to check it out, so thought it looked interesting, and I love that album. And their first record, Roads to Judah, is not nearly as good as Sunbather, I don't think. It's not nearly as ambitious, it is considerably shorter, but you do still have some very lengthy, very melodic, very interesting compositions going on here. I think the first track is about 9 or 10 minutes. Or actually, I believe it's longer than that. I believe it's 11 or 12 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. And I think there are only 4 tracks on this record, and it's a standard 40-something minute album, whereas Sunbather is a solid hour long. So, yeah, it is a good album, and I do recommend it, but I don't think it's as good as Sunbather. Alright, next up is Green Day, Warning. This is a 2000 album from Green Day originally, and this is I believe to be a more recent pressing. And this is a Hot Topic exclusive. This is where I bought it on HotTopic.com, and as you can see, it is very, very pink. I love this color. This looks fantastic. And personally, I think this is, I am a Green Day fan, even though I got into them about a year or two ago, and now I am more of a fan of their older stuff, pretty much all their stuff up until this record. And I do think this is when they had started to wane in popularity a bit after Dookie and Insomniac and all the big singles they had from those 2 records. And this is something much more personal from Billie Joe, at least it feels that way, and it's much more folk influenced, much more blues influenced than most of the other stuff up until that point. It doesn't have the hard-hitting sound that albums like Insomniac or Nimrod had, and I really do appreciate it for that. And Billie Joe has gone on record as saying that Bob Dylan was a big influence as far as songwriting goes when he was writing Warning, and I think it shows with the very blues-heavy influence, folksy. And the album does tackle, somewhat vaguely, but issues like depression, abusive relationships, feeling cast out, which are all that is a fairly typical theme of their music, but It is pulled off very, very well on the Warning album, and I do highly recommend that album if you haven't heard it. Alright, next up is the 2011 live album, Green Day again. This is awesome as fuck. This is a double, and you see it's a pretty nice gatefold here. From their more recent tours, and a lot of live releases like this have gatefolds similar to this, with just collages, pictures of the band sort of splattered around like that. This looks very nice. It's well pieced together, and it's a nice set. And inserts here, pictures, uncensored album titles, credits. I was thinking there was a lyric. No, there's not a lyric sheet. It's a live album. There's not a lyric sheet. And once again, it's pink. And this is these are heavyweight records. This is pressed 180 gram. You can see it looks a little thicker there. And this release has a wide variety of older stuff, newer stuff, all the way back to the Kerplunk LP. But it does mostly, this is a 2011 album, and the 21st Century Breakdown album came out in 2009, and most of this is tours from that album, so a lot of the singles from 21st Century Breakdown are live here. And this isn't just one big show, this is actually, this is snippets from multiple shows spliced together. Tracks you have on here are 21st Century Breakdown, Know Your Enemy, East Jesus Nowhere, all those from 21st Century Breakdown album, and some stuff from American Idiot, like Holiday. The song American Idiot, Waking Up September Ends. And, oh, that's interesting, this has one of their unreleased songs, Cigarettes and Valentines, from the LP that was supposed to come out after Warning, but apparently, from what I've heard, the demos got stolen and they ended up scrapping that LP, but they have recorded and played a few of the proposed tracks from that LP live. Then you have some older stuff like from Insomniac, Geeks Deep Breath, some stuff from the Dookie album, When I Come Around, and She, Burnout, and some stuff from Kerplunk, like going to Pasalacqua. Jason Andrew Relva, I want to say that was from the International Super Hits release, who wrote Holden Caulfield from Kerplunk. Yeah, this is a nice little release if you're looking for a live Green Day album. I do think that the Bullet in a Bible live release is probably the better album out of between that and Awesome as Fuck, but Awesome as Fuck is a good release. Plus, the pink vinyl is pretty fantastic, and I love the look of that. Green Day likes pink vinyl. Not that I'm complaining, because they released the Uno record from 2012 on pink vinyl also. Yeah, not complaining at all with that. I love pink vinyl. You know what? I'll put this in. This in later. Pardon me. Green Day, yet again, the Dookie LP. This is one of the first albums I heard from Green Day, and this is still one of their most famous albums, gets the most radio play, aside from American Idiot, of course, because that album will never die, ever. Even though personally I'm not a huge fan of it, I'm just going to put that out there. Not a huge fan of the American Idiot album. And this, also a Hot Topic exclusive, is pressed. It's really nice, translucent, like candy apple green. I really like the way this looks, especially when held up to the light. This looks fantastic. Very old school style label print on here from Reprise Records. Very nice. And I did spin this last night and it sounds fantastic. Right, Dookie, as you may know, if you're a Green Day fan or just a casual fan of popular music, punk rock from the 90s. It's a 1994 album put out by Reprise Records. This is, if it isn't my favorite Green Day album, it is one of my favorites easily. It's up there with Insomniac and Warning and Kerplunk, for me at least. And this has several very, very popular songs. Longview, Welcome to Paradise, Basket Case, She. All of these songs were big, big singles in '94. I want to say Basket Case was probably the most famous out of the tracks from here. Pretty standard, quick, about half hour, 30-something minute long album. Very fast, very, very speedy delivery on these tracks. Excellent bass lines from Mike Dirnt. Fantastic, some of the best drumming from Trey Cool, I think, has ever been on a Green Day album. The drumming on this is fantastic. And Billy Joe's, some of his most iconic lyrics and just very harebrained, very drug-addled, bizarre vocals that he has on here. Yeah, this album does, like I said, Warning has a more folksy, bluesy influence. This does also, but more of a blues rock, folk rock, punk folk influence to it. It is, from their more hard-hitting stuff, like excluding Warning, this is one of the twangier sounding albums on here. And look at that album art. That album art is fantastic. And I do own a CD copy of this album that I bought about 2 years ago. And yeah, it really owes to have this on vinyl for the highly detailed, very, very funny album art on this thing. I love it. Alright. That is a classic. Last but not least, little album that I saw popped up on Deathwish Records website when I was searching through, and that's where I got that, like I said, that's where I got that Deafheaven release, Rose to Judah. This is Never Mind the Bombings, Here's Your Six Figures EP by the band United Nations. This came out in 2010. United Nations is obviously very politically charged, kind of old school screamo style band. Hard rock, speed rock. And look at this. This is pretty nice. This nice translucent blue 7-inch. This is an EP. It's 4 tracks long, but it is pressed on a 7-inch. And I have not spun this yet. As far as I know, it is played at 33. That would make sense. Alright, and comes with a nice little lyric sheet here. And honestly, what piqued my interest about this, I do like screamo. I do appreciate the genre, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. Honestly, what piqued my interest here is the very, very eye-catching album art that obviously takes influence and is inspired by the iconic album art from Nevermind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols, the '77 album that was pretty much the granddaddy of punk music and one of my favorite albums of all time. And on the back here, you have a very Warholian collage art style, very 70s pop art style. Back here, with a picture of Andy Warhol himself in the center. So, yeah, very obvious influence there. And this is a nice little release. It's very quick, very loud, very fast. Only 4 tracks long, like I said. I mean, it's on 7-inch, so obviously it's a pretty quick listen. But it is a nice little release, and even if I bought it just for the album art, just for the novelty of it, and I don't have a vinyl copy of Nevermind the Bollocks. I need to get around to that. Hopefully soon I will get a vinyl copy of that release, because that is, like I said, one of my favorite albums. This is a nice little release. If it sounds interesting to you at all, I say check it out. Also check out everything else that Deathwish has to offer. They're an excellent record label. Alright, that is it. Those 5 albums. That is it for my vinyl update. See you next video.